Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Podriplegics. Today we have an extremely cool and special guest, the powerful, inspirational Domonic Corradin. But like always, before we get started, I got to go through these housekeeping items really quick. First of all, our sponsors, Arizona Spinal Cord Injury Association. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. The website is azspinal.org. You can call them at 602-507-4209. Ask for Eric. He'll answer the phone. Again, like I told you, he loves the 3:30 a.m.ers, maybe 4 a.m. calls. Yep. Call him with all your problems and issues. He loves it. It's his favorite thing to do. This podcast can be found on what you're watching it right now, maybe YouTube. Can be found on YouTube, maybe azspinal.org/podcast. On Facebook, the Arizona Spinal Cord Injury Friends group. Audio-wise, you can check us on Spotify and on iTunes. Do us a favor. If you enjoy us, if you enjoy the podcast, click right underneath. Hit the subscribe button, even hit the alert button, and you'll never have to worry about it again. Every time we post one, our beautiful faces and or our beautiful voices will pop up directly to your phone. So please do that. Leave a message. Leave a comment. If you have any questions, we'll get to them. Don, Eric, Laronda, and myself have 100-plus years of living with a disability. We are not medical professionals, okay? So if you are having medical issues, please contact your doctor and or 911. We are only here to share our stories, share our experiences, and bring other inspirational, powerful people to talk to show you what it's like to live with the disability and be able to move on with your lives and those type of things and answer questions or however you want to, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Mature language and content, mostly from Don and Eric. So they swear a lot. I apologize. But, what are you going to do? Don't sue us, please. If you're going to sue anybody, sue Eric. I don't know which side of him I'm on, so I'm going to point all different directions. Sue Eric. He loves it. He's looking for that first lawsuit. So, and he's got all the monies. All right. On to the show.
No.
To the show.
Just to add, we're also on iHeartRadio. So
iHeartRadio.
Yeah, that just happened not too long ago. So
all right, you can check us on iHeartRadio as well. On to the show. Special guest, Mr. Domonic Corradin, fellow Michigander. Welcome, my friend.
Welcome. Thank you guys for having me.
My dog.
So Don, Dom. I say Don. This is going to be one of those shows where Don and Dom aren't going to know who we're talking to. But Dom, you've been in a chair since what, 94? So do you want to kind of go through a little bit and explain what your injuries are and how you became injured and all that stuff real quick?
Sure. So the quick and dirty is 3 weeks after my 16th birthday, I was driving home from soccer practice back in Michigan, and I was a sophomore in high school, just got my license, and like I said, driving home, I got about 1.5 miles from my house and lost control on the ice and slid off the road, ended up catapulting my car about 18 feet into a tree. The car hit the tree with the roof, and the roof crushed down onto my back and crushed 2 vertebrae in my back and severed my spinal cord. So I ended up with a complete spinal cord injury from T5-6 down. Spent a week in the rehab unit, or spent a week in the ICU unit. And they did surgery on my back and put my back back together. And then I spent 6 weeks in a rehab hospital up there called Mary Freebed. And
hey, I'm an alum. I'm a Mary Freebed alum.
I figured as much, man.
Sorry to interrupt that, but I love to see Mary Freebed alum.
So yeah, so 6 weeks in Mary Free Bed, and got out on Thursday. Friday morning went back to school, and just been wheeling like crazy ever since.
So I got a question for you when it comes to like that. Well, you got in an auto accident. I also was in an auto accident. You know, how long did it take for when you got in your accident to when somebody like called the ambulance and you got to the hospital?
So crazy thing was, when my car slid out, I almost hit a car in the oncoming lane. She actually stopped, and because she saw my car already backwards and going off the road, and so she stopped, and a guy actually heard the accident. He was in the woods across the street getting ready to go hunting and heard the accident, and so he came running, and so everyone was there basically upon impact. They called paramedics. Paramedics were there within minutes. I was only about 3 miles outside of town, so those boys were up and to me right away. So I fortunately didn't sit and wait, or was pinned for very long.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the things. When I was there, I was on the side of the road for about 45 minutes to an hour before anybody
Man.
came to me. But I was just wondering because that was one of the experiences that I remember the most, is after my accident, having to lay there and be there and kind of feeling this strange, I don't know if it was a sort of DMT type of situation, right, where your brain is flooding you with all these different things, and having such a clear mind and that situation and that difficult time. I just wondered if that had happened to you or not. So it sounds like.
And it's interesting that you say that too, that you were so aware. And I've heard so many stories of people where they remember everything. They remember in an accident, they remember the sounds of, the glass breaking and things like that. I don't remember anything from about 2 blocks after leaving my school until days into the hospital. I have no recollection of my accident, of the rescue, or anything.
That probably helps a little bit with not having to deal with the PTSD or the post-traumatic issues that go along with, riding in cars again or driving cars again, right? So, I mean, I know a lot of people deal with that if they've been in an accident, a catastrophic auto accident. Getting back in and driving a car can be a very scary proposition for some people.
Definitely. And that I agree too, is that I felt a little fortunate that I don't remember, because I never had any nightmares or, like you say, the PTSD sort of effect. I used to get a little bit nervous if I was a passenger and somebody would go, like, say, off the road a little bit, like across the white line, you'd see them drift a little bit. I'd start to get real nervous and didn't really understand why. Because again, I didn't remember crashing, and I was the driver. So, it was a whole different situation.
Yeah. Eric, Don?
Yeah, I have a question, Dominic. Did you say you left the hospital and then within a day or two you were already back in school? Is that accurate?
Yeah. So, like I said, I literally left the rehab hospital Thursday afternoon. Friday morning, I went back to school for half a day, and then Monday I was back full time.
That's amazing, because so many people, after such a traumatic change to their life, it takes them months to years to kind of adapt to it and to be comfortable being out again. And how did you manage that, or do you have anything you accredit that to, or I mean, was it just your mind that you were going to get back? I mean, I just think that's pretty amazing what you did.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, because it took me 8 months to go back to school. after my
Did it?
injury.
Okay.
Yeah, it took me eight months, but then I had another traumatic injury after, like, accident happened in my life. And then I was basically out of school for about a year and a half because I had just initially started high school. So you were in high school also. So how was that like going,
Yeah, I mean,
So there's two things that two sides of it. On the physical side, I was 16 years old at peak physical condition. I was a varsity soccer goalie. I was a gym rat. I'd always been an athlete. And in my accident, I only had the 2 broken vertebrae. I had no internal injuries. I had no other injuries whatsoever in the accident. So I healed very, very quickly physically, and I was already in good physical shape. So the physical part of it was very quick. On the mental side of it, honestly, the probably the best, most pivotal part of it was my dad at one point was sitting on my bed, and I was going through the why me's in the hospital. Why did this happen to me? I always felt, I was a good kid. I was an honor roll student. I didn't do drugs. I wasn't into anything bad. And so I was wondering why I got punished. I was a soccer player that just got my legs taken away.
right.
And my dad said to me, he sat down on my bedside and he says, he said, you're dealt the cards you're dealt. He goes, you just got to play them the best you can. And it hit me, and it's like, okay, so why me is not fixing my back. Why me is not, sitting here pondering is not doing any good. So let's see what we can do with this. And it was full charge from there. I was very fortunate in the hospital that my recreational therapist, she was very adamant about getting me back into sport of some sort. So, she was a big one to put like Sports and Spokes magazine on my bedside table. Having mentors come in and talk to me, any chance they could to bring me to like a basketball practice or a tennis tournament or whatever they could on outings. They were doing that, showing me what was possible. And so I got a lot of like food for knowledge, sort of, I guess, when I was in the hospital, because Doc was like, oh, you can't do any sports or anything for the first year.
Let me
You got
guess,
to
his
heal
name
up
is
and all this.
Dr. Ho.
No.
I'm sorry.
I can't actually remember my doctor's names. I think there was Dr. Easton, I think, was my orthopedic. And so the on top of going back to school right away, I also got right back into sports right away. So I was required, I think it was like 2 months outpatient physical therapy after I got out of the rehab hospital. And the first day I go to my assessment to my new outpatient PT, and she does my assessment and she goes, well, you can already do everything I need to tick off the list. She says, but you're required to do all of this. She goes, I've got you for 2 months, like whether you like it or not. So what are we going to do? And I said, I found out that she was actually a triathlete. And I said, well, I'm really interested in this wheelchair road racing. Maybe can you train me on the competitive level rather than just like a recovery level? I said, would you be willing to do that? And she said, absolutely. So my outpatient physical therapy was actually training for my first road race. And I entered my first wheelchair road race 5 months after my date of injury.
Jesus.
That is amazing.
That's super cool, man. Super
question.
cool.
I entered what was it, like an 8K? did my first road race, and then just have been doing sport ever since.
Question for you. So when you had your injury, before and after, what happened with the social group of people? Because, you know, you probably had a group of friends, and what happened in that transition? Because it, you know, that's such a fast transition. I mean, were they questioning if you were actually disabled? Were they, you know, what was going on in their heads?
So it's really funny that you asked that, because there's a lot of different caveats to that story. So for me, when I was in the hospital, you know, I would have classmates come in and visit me, and they would ask, you know, is there anything you want us to tell, you know, the kids back at school? And I said, well, you know, just tell them I'm the same person. I'm just shorter and on wheels. You know, there's nothing different about me. You know, don't worry about it. It's, you know, it's cool. I'm cool with it. I found out that there were a lot of different stories that somehow made it back to the people in my town and my classmates. At one point, I was in a full body cast. One of the stories was I was in a full body cast. One story was I was completely fine and I was just going to come back to school and everything was okay. I wasn't paralyzed or nothing. So
people really were not good at the phone game, were they?
Yeah.
No. And this was 94. So, you know, cell phones had just started coming out. So you really didn't have that, you know, people talking too much.
Wow.
And so there were a lot of different stories, and people were definitely, they were concerned, you know, about how I was going to be and how things were going to be when I got back, because I wasn't going to be the same. I wasn't the same person. A lot of people, I think they fed off from my personality in that I was okay with it, so they were okay with it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. When going back to school, like, was it hard for you as far as like accessibility? So, I mean, especially going from like that, getting out that Thursday and then going like right back to school, accessibility was a big issue for me when I went back to school. How did the school help you and you adapt to that?
Luckily, and this is out of the norm for, you know, back in Michigan, everything is upstairs. You know, because of the snow and just because of building codes back there. I mean, just the basic there. Oddly enough, my school had no steps up into the school. The whole entire school itself was all one level and completely really wheelchair accessible, which in all of, say, 12 grades in my little hometown, I was the only person in a wheelchair. I was the only person with any.
Oh, we
Kinda
just lost some of your sound here, Dominic.
I mean, you know, what he talks about, one of the things that he's talking about is how much friends and the people in your life can really help you in times of need like this. And I think it's a very powerful message and powerful story for a lot of people when you start thinking about that, because it's the same thing with me. I went right back to school too, and I would have never been able to do it if it wasn't for my friends helping me, my family helping me, and having an awesome, amazing support system to allow me to grieve what happened, but also not dwell on what is going to happen, right? Or who, and still allow me to be me and all these different things, and supporting me all the way through it and pushing me to be back in social situations, back in all the different, you know, aspects of college life that we were in and all those things. It really was a huge thing. And that's something that I could say to all these people, anybody who's listening, who's new. You look for people who are positive that can push you and really help you understand that it doesn't matter if you're in a chair. Just you know, like you can still make and do it and accomplish goals. You know.
Yeah, that's what helped, and that's what helped me. My family didn't let me be kind of sit and dwell on anything. It was like, you better figure it out, basically.
Yeah. Get back on the horse.
That was one of the things too for me was, my dad, he was so supportive. My whole family was, my whole hometown really was, everybody around me really was. But my dad and I, him and I were like the best of friends. We rode motorcycles together and horses. And, I grew up on a little hobby farm. So I was out there splitting wood and baling hay and, doing all those sort of things. Yep. And luckily my dad was a general contractor, is a general contractor, and he builds residential homes. And so modifying our house to be wheelchair accessible was very easy for him to make those renovations and stuff. And his goal, it was so funny. One of his first things of me getting out of the hospital was he wanted to know, how are we going to get Dom back on a motorcycle again? How is that going to happen? And so instead of, building a trike or anything like that, the first step was how to get me on the passenger seat of a motorcycle. And so he put on foot plates on the back of his bike and made the seat, a little bit bigger. And it was like, okay, now how is Dom going to transfer to the seat? How is he going to get up there? I was strong enough to be able to transfer to the seat and then put myself up in the passenger seat. And then he'd put my feet on the foot plates, and we'd actually rubber band. He had these giant rubber bands, and he would band my feet to the actual foot plates so that my feet wouldn't fall off when we were riding. And then I would just hold on to him for dear life. And, we'd turn and it was game on from there.
It's funny that the difference in the things that your friends and all this stuff do, and they do it. They're not doing it for negative reasons or anything of the sort. But you said your dad was like, "How are we going to get him on a motorcycle again?" My friends are like, "How are we going to get him to bong beers again?" Right? So like they figured out ways to figure out, "Oh, let's do it this way. We're making bong go this way. We'll figure." You know what I mean? Like it's so. It's awesome, right? I mean, it is really great, and that's such a cool story that your dad got you back on there. That's awesome.
One of the biggest things that I've seen over the years, and I love it, is my friends forget that I'm in a wheelchair, and they apologize for forgetting that I'm in a wheelchair. And I said, no, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
Like for example, back in high school, I used to have this really good friend. We're still friends to this day. But we used to always go to our hometown Subway, like for Wednesday dinners, and just go and hang out and have a, sandwich and a drink and just talk. And one time she had driven, and she had taken my chair apart and put it in the back seat of the car. And we get to Subway, and she gets out of her car. She walks up to the door. She grabs the door, opens the door, and she's standing there waiting for me. She's looking at me like, "Come on, Dom. Like, why are you still sitting in the car?"
Yeah.
And I pointed to the back, and I said, "Dom, wheelchair?" And she's like, "Oh, crap." She's like, "I totally forgot." So she goes,
My family do that all the time.
Together, you get out, and she's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I can't." That's awesome, because that means you don't put that weight on my wheelchair. That's not an important thing, and I like that. And I've been so glad that people over the years do. They forget that I'm in a chair. Yeah. That means I'm just the same. Again, I'm no different. Yeah.
Don, you were going to ask a question.
Well, so just kind of following the track of your life here. You're in Arizona now, right, Dominic?
Yeah. So I moved here right out of high school. I moved out here. I came to college out here. I lived in Phoenix and the suburbs for probably about 6-8 years. Then I left. I went to California, and I became the proverbial fart in a windstorm for probably 15 years, 20 years, and then about 3 years ago moved back.
Yeah, I think when I met you, you were working for Arizona State Parks and working on making state parks more accessible to people with disabilities. Can you kind of talk about that for me? I know you're not with them any longer, but
yeah. So I ended up getting a job at Arizona State Parks, and this was about 1.5 years ago now. And I started as their ADA intern, just helping with accessibility stuff and trying to figure things out. Essentially, by my experience and everything, became their ADA coordinator, and was building and assessing all of their accessibility throughout all their parks. And with all of my background in nature and outdoors, between adapted mountain biking and camping and hiking and kayaking and all of that, I was able to bring that experience to the table and help make the parks realize how accessible they already were and make the changes they needed to be more accessible. And then oh, I'm sorry?
Were they receptive to, your input and spending money and making things more accessible?
Very much so. And the one of the things that was really cool about my experience there was that they were trying to follow a lot of like ADA guidelines, and which they're required to do so, but they didn't have to make the entire park wheelchair accessible. The requirements were only for certain amenities, certain percentages of things. And so they were so scared, like, oh my God, we're going to have to spend millions of dollars to make our entire park accessible. And so I was able to sort of calm them back down and go, okay, yes, part of it does need to be, and these are the requirements, but you can also do smaller things to make it accessible for guys that are crazy like me, that want to go out and mountain bike a trail, and it doesn't necessarily need all of the ADA modifications, but some modifications make it accessible to an adapted bike, to an adapted hiker. And so they could do minimal changes and open the door to even more visitors.
Yep.
Well, I mean, that's super cool. I mean, that's, not necessarily my thing. I'm not quite the green. I'm not quite the green penis you are, but but it's cool. I know everybody, a lot of other people like it, and that's something that we can kind of transition to. You're doing a lot of cycling things. I mean, you even started up a couple of companies, right? There's one in China. You said one in China, one here. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So it's kind of a long story, but I started using hand cycling as my primary sport back in 2010. I had just come back from a trip to Australia, and I was hand cycling with some friends there. I grabbed a borrowed bike and just got bit. Absolutely loved it. Started competing here when I got back into the States. And through the knowledge that I started to gain, I started teaching others, and I found a real knack for that. So I got asked by the Triumph Foundation out in California when I was living there to develop a hand cycle program for them. And so with some grant money and some time, we developed a program there, started doing monthly clinics, introducing people to hand cycling. And then if they wanted to, bridge it even further, then I would help them train for racing or whatever they wanted. And then a couple of years into that, got approached by a guy in China, in Beijing, wanting me to come to China and speak about my experiences, my activities, things like that. And we were using my hand cycling and being the professional sponsored athlete in as my sort of, that's what my catch was. And so I brought my bike over to China, and the first trip back in 2013, we traveled all over China, rural areas, all of the big cities, for 26 days, and introduced people to hand cycling, and then was able to also teach people wheelchair skills from there. Teaching them what technology exists here in the United States, what accessible features there are. And then, you know, sort of the more, I guess here it'd be the intermediate skills, but like wheelies and curb jumps and things like that, teaching them that was opening the world to them because it's so inaccessible there. So teaching those skills gave them access to the world outside of their home. And then with that, we were able, the guy who invited me over there became an actual really good friend of mine and now business partner. And him and we've developed programs now over there for cycling, for swimming, WCMX, all sorts of different sports over there now. And we continue to grow from there.
I'm gonna let everybody get a chance to kind of follow up on that, but I do want to make one quick point in the fact that if you've noticed over the last few interviews that we've done, you've seen people who take something that is an interest to them and turn it into a way to rehabilitate themselves, a way to get themselves out of the house, and then also be able to turn it into a way to become financially independent in the fact that you don't always have to say, all right, now I'm in a chair. Oh, I can't work. I can't find a job. You need to be able to figure things like that out. And I'm so glad that you did. I'm so glad that you did that. I know these guys probably have some questions for you as far as cycling and stuff goes and those kind of things. But I just wanted to point that out because I think it's a very, very important thing for a lot of people who may feel lost of what to do with as far as work and things of that goes. I think everybody here has found an interest in what they do and found a way to be financially independent with that interest. So I think that's awesome.
So does this mean that I don't have to be sued? I can actually send it over to Domonic?
Yes, I am. Sue him too. As long as they don't come my way, I don't care.
Money bags over there.
Well, I may be a business owner, but I barely got a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. So,
but still,
I mean, I always like when I met Dom. That's when I'll call him Dom. I'm sorry, but when I met him, that's how I sparked the interest in cycling. As everybody know, being disabled, it's hard to stay active and get cardio in. And cycling is one thing that I really kind of want to get into to be more, to be more healthier. If you see Dom, you will know what I mean. Dom has some guns, as they would say.
Give us a soft flex, Dom. Give us a
Come on, Dom.
Look at that. Hey now.
There you go. And so, look at me. I'm glad you say, look, I'm gonna take you up on this training because I'm gonna need a whole lot of because I'm scary. That's my whole thing. Dom does some crazy stuff. If you watch some of his videos or follow him online, I'd be like, oh my Lord, I have to rewatch it like 3 times because I can't believe that some of the stuff that he does on these cycles. So how do you?
By the way, Dom, would you like to tell us what you have a site or something that people can go to, like a website, don't you?
So yeah, so my company, like Laronda said, is called Extreme Abilities. And if you type in extremeabilities.com, that's my website.
Is that
Same
extreme
thing.
like you spell it, or is that X stream? X.
No, I spell it the normal way.
Okay.
Um,
Just checking.
yeah. And all the social media, I have Instagram, I've got Twitter, Facebook, all the major ones. I'm actually in the process right now of completely rebuilding my website. It should be, hopefully the new one should be live here in the next week or two. I'm not the greatest at coding, so it's taken me a lot longer, but I did want to say, Laronda, you have such an interest in cycling, and I want to let people know that for me, cycling was one of those things that I found it was the one sport that anyone could do with any ability level or any disability. I've literally duct taped quadriplegics' hands to the hand cranks and got them out cranking. I've gotten single arm amputees, single leg, double leg amputees. If you've got one arm, you can ride a bike. And you can ride it at any level. People look at you mentioned about like the crazy things I've done, and one of the things that we did over in China was we did what was called the dream ride, and we actually rode our hand cycles across. I had a team of guys ride across China over 4 years. So we would ride like 500 miles in, say, a week and a half and camp along the way. And then the next year, we'd start where we finished the previous year and just continue on.
I was going to ask what were you doing for those whole 4 years?
So we would ride for, say, like 10, 11 days. And we would do about 500 miles, depending on the terrain, and then continue on the next year. And we bit off, I think it ended up being about 3,700 miles total. And so we did the 3,700 miles, and people are like, oh my God, there's no way I could ever ride that far. And I said, well, you don't have to. You can ride around your block. You can ride a mile. Whatever you're riding is more than what you did before. You don't have to go to, the full extent. Extreme Abilities was put on the premise to show the extreme of what's possible, but it doesn't mean you have to go there.
Well, if you put me on a bike, I want to go straight downhill and hit a jump. So
look at me. I just want look at me. I want to be cute and healthy. I want to have my hair
well, you're already there, Laronda.
I want the outfit on, and I just want to look at me, and I just want to go and be cute. That's what I want to do.
Now, I've been hand pedaling before, and I know it is possible to tip those suckers if you turn them sharp.
Oh,
All right.
No.
That's what I'm looking for.
What, Laronda? I'm just letting you know. Just be careful.
Don't scare me. That's what I just tell you. I'm trying, but if you throw that fear out there, I'm gonna be like, no.
You're good, Laronda.
No, you're good,
right.
Laronda. You're good. I mean, so I won't tell the story, but anyways, you really have to do like a 180 with the bike at a high speed to get it to tip. I mean, you have to take a sharp turn to really make those suckers tip.
Okay.
Dom, am I wrong?
So my job title on my business card is crash test dummy. And
that's what I'm talking about. I like it.
So
I have crashed everything. And yes, you can crash a hand cycle. It is possible, but it is very difficult. You have to try hard.
Yeah. It's not an easy thing to do. If
I fall, Eric, I'm gonna find you, and
you're gonna kick my butt, aren't you?
I'm gonna do more than kick your butt. Let me fall. Look, let me fall and scratch my elbow.
I want to ask you a few questions. I get a lot of these questions asked to me, and they tell me that I should be asking everybody these questions. So I do want to ask you, as a person with a disability, you live independently, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I have ever since I left home.
What are your, like, say, bowel routines and bladder routines? Like, how do those work for you?
So my bowel program has been real easy for me. I think out of anything of being paralyzed, that's been the one easy thing. So for me, it's get up, go to the toilet. I'm there maybe 10 minutes. I'm done. I'm off and to the races.
Wow. Do you use like magic bullets, or what? Do you use anything like that?
So for me, it's just digital stim. A good old glove and a little lube, and
yeah, for sure.
It's like I said, I've been fortunate with that.
Are you extremely healthy eater though too as well?
I'm pretty good. I would say I'm in the middle. I do definitely watch what I eat, and my body tells me whether it likes it or not real easily. But and then just kind of backtrack a little bit. If I do have an accident or have some troubles or whatnot, then it's like, okay, what did I eat? What was out of the ordinary? Those sort of things. And with my bladder on the other side, that's been a point of trouble ever since the beginning. I have what they call a neurogenic bladder. So I have, in other words, it's a spastic bladder. So I've always had problems, leaking and stuff like that. And it's been trouble. I was on meds for a long time. I got to the highest dosage of the meds, and I was still having problems. And I had talked to a few different people. Some people had like bladder enlargements. They'd gone through like major surgery for that. Some people have gone to even a suprapubic catheter. I still use an intermittent catheter.
Have you ever tried Botox?
I don't have any. So that's what I ended up doing. Was I talked to some friends, and they had really, really good results with doing Botox injections. And so I started that probably about 4 years ago, I think it was. Every quarter I go in and I get injections done. I'm actually a pretty good patient when it comes for that. I go in just to my doctor's office, and he not to get too graphic, but he'll put.
I gave a disclaimer in the beginning. Fire away.
Yeah, no holds barred.
People want to know this shit, man. I'm telling you right now. This is like what everybody wants to know.
I know people that are having issues with this right now. So any knowledge you can lay on us.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm on the easier side of the process. They used to have me go into like an operating room. They would put me under sedation, and they would do the injections, and it was this big process. And some people, that is necessary. Some people are very, very spastic, or they can't handle the sight of the probe going in and things like that. I have to say, when the doctor came at me with the probe, and he's got this fiber optic camera and this giant needle, and he's going to stick that up in me, and I'm like, oh wait, you gonna put that where? Wow. I was like, I'm secure in my size and all, but damn.
You're just gonna rip the tip open, my man. God damn.
Oh, hurt a boy. Like this is no. I'm like I said, I'm on the good side of it, where I can go to my doctor's office. He doesn't have to put me under. They do put me in a chair with stirrups. So like girls that go and get like checkups and stuff, I feel you. Because yeah, there's usually my doctor and at least 2 young female nurses, and they are there like, and I'm just exposed to the world.
Now the stirrups, I'm sure, are so that your leg don't spasm and
Yeah, they've got
Welcome
me
to the world of
strapped
being disabled, huh? Everybody you know has seen you naked, dude.
No privacy at
That's
all.
something you got to deal with.
yeah, you know,
It's
like.
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead,
I don't say it's easy. I mean, I'm fascinated by it, or just I ain't gonna say fascinated, but it's like, you know, it's being a female, just how I don't know what happened. What did I do?
You hit
Uh-oh.
stop
I did
on-
something wrong.
pushing
Hold
buttons.
on 1 second.
I also do the Botox, but because of my autonomic dysreflexia, I have to go under. I have to do
You
the
do?
this
Okay.
surgery.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, but I
Oh,
think it's
okay.
helped me like a ton. Like I mean, I can tell as soon as it wears off, man. As soon as it starts to wear off, I'm like, God dang, I got to get in there and get that done again.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
Dominic, I can relate with you with having the interns. I don't know what it is with doctors and like surgeries and stuff, but like when I had my surgeries when I was 13 years old, I swear they invited like 7 people into the room. They're like, "Oh, you got to see this. Here, come here. Come here. You
They
gotta
gotta learn, you know.
And there I am naked and I got all kinds of drawings on my body and they're like, "Oh, take a look at this. Take a look at this." And I'm just
I
like,
mean, when you're hung like a horse, but everybody wants to see.
Yeah, right.
So when I first got hurt, one of the drawbacks I did have was the paramedics had left me on the longboard for like 8 hours flat on my back, going through all the initial emergency stuff and bringing me into the emergency room and all of that. So I actually started my spinal cord injury with a decubitus ulcer on my tailbone the size of a silver dollar.
I was just going to ask on that. Yeah.
And so I had to heal from that. Well, you talk about people coming in and seeing you. Every Thursday, they would come in and take a picture of my butt and the sore with a tape measure, and they would put that in the doctor's room in the rehab hospital. So anybody that came into that room saw my behind.
I'm telling you,
So
that's the life of being in a chair, man. I'm telling everybody you know and everybody you don't know is all seeing you naked.
oh yeah.
So true.
Yep.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Dominic, did you have to deal with any chronic pain, or do you still deal with anything, or do you have to take anything for pain?
You know, again, I've been super fortunate. I don't have any nerve pain. I don't have any pain or anything below my injury. My injury is complete, so I've got nothing. I've been super lucky with that. Unfortunately, the last couple years, they found I have degenerative arthritis in both of my shoulders. And I have major inflammation in both shoulders. And they said that I kind of put it up to, you know, penance from a life well lived is what I would say.
Right.
You know, I've brutalized my body over the last 25 years, and I figure, okay, it's time. I'm paying for having a lot of fun. But they said that the degenerative arthritis was actually something that was genetic.
Wow.
It actually came from my mom's side. Her brothers and everybody had it. It was just kind of luck of the draw, really. So I'm going through trying to figure out different treatments and stuff like that for the pain and the inflammation in my shoulders, and just trying to work that all out. But that's really all I deal with.
Right. You know, I just actually I'm the same way. I don't deal with like nerve pain, or I don't deal with, with kind of any of that. But my shoulders are starting to bother me. So I started like, I want to say it's like a stimulator. So I put the probes on.
TENS unit. It's
Yeah,
TENS
so
unit.
I put the probes on the front. Look, I'm new to this. So I put them on the front, the back of each shoulder, and for a whole hour, they're like jumping. And it really, really has been helping, helping with that. And they stopped me from lifting my arms above my head.
Yeah.
The pain stopped you from lifting, or
no? The therapist, they don't want me to lift anything like lift. I'm not supposed to lift anything above the head. So I don't do any of that, and I just use those, what you call it, Shawn?
Or TENS units. Yeah.
Okay, so I use those, and I do it like every other night, and it feels so good. I actually use them on my legs just to see how it will work. It really works. So maybe try that, because I don't like surgery. I try to stay away from it, but try that and see if that'll help with some of the pain in your shoulders.
I had a pain injury. I had an injury, a microscopic tear in my rotor cuff from swimming back in the 90s. And I'd say 2 years ago, I started to get shoulder pains in both shoulders. And what I did is I went in for acupuncture. And I went in for 5 treatments. And after that 5th treatment, it got remapped or something, because I do not feel the pain nearly what I did, if at all.
Really?
Yeah, my pain is gone. I combined it with meditation, and I can tell you that there was a mental shift. And I also have been working with something similar to TENS unit. It's called Alpha Stim. And what it is, it has these 2 probes, and then you cross-section your injury with it. And the unit itself is something that you can get prescribed from a doctor, but insurance doesn't necessarily cover it unless you're a vet. If you're a veteran, then insurance covers it, because it's FDA approved, and it's like another evolution of Alpha Stim. But I tried it with someone else who had a really sore back from doing heavy lifting and previous back injury. We tried it twice in one day, took 2 minutes on each time. And the guy came back, and for the next 2 weeks, he said, I've never slept so good in my entire life. I got up, I didn't feel any pain. So, I mean, there's something to remapping, even though the injury may still be there, there's something to remapping how our minds associate with it. And sometimes what that'll do is that'll actually help in the healing process, because now we're not sending that current that's going to inflame it so much.
So
at least that's
I got
my theory.
this thing right here.
Yeah.
This thing is a little acupuncture machine. So
you know what? I don't think that's what people thought it was.
No, it's electrical thing. So you go over and it'll find the nerve, and when it finds the nerve, it'll send an electrical impulse to those areas, right? It'll then stimulate it, which then brings the blood oxygen or whatever back up to it. And I literally got it for $15.
How do you like it?
Yeah, you can get them online. I don't know if it says the name of it on here, but I'll look and see.
Never
and
even heard.
I'll say it on the next one, our next podcast. I'll say what it is. I'll look it up.
Cool,
but
man.
it's got like 10 different, intensity levels, and it works, man. It's nice. It's really a nice thing.
It's pretty awesome.
To try.
That's very cool.
Yeah. You guys thought it was gonna be something nasty, didn't you?
It looked like something else.
Nasty.
It looked like something else.
Look, I know we're coming close to the end of our time. Don, was there anything that you had left that you wanted to put out there or ask?
Well, we didn't get into talking about the car you're rebuilding, but that could be a whole another episode. But that's really cool. I think you said you're working on it.
I mean, we can get into it real quick if you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've always been a gearhead. I've always been into motorcycles and cars and trucks and all of that, and always been a wrench. And I just, through my own trials and tribulations, learned how to do things again from a chair. The first thing I started working on, I was working on a motorcycle actually right before I got injured, and I was restoring one, and it was still sitting there when I got out of rehab. And I was like, all right, I got to figure out how to do this now, because I got to finish this project. And so that was the first of many then builds after. Right now, I'm in the process of building a 1972 Chevy 1-ton pickup. They called it a Longhorn edition, and it's actually an extended long box. So it has an 8.5-foot bed in it. And I've put a 2002 Tahoe engine and transmission in it. So it has modern fuel injection. It actually has power windows, power door locks, cruise control, all the modern conveniences in an old truck. And one of the things that I've tried to do with it is same with my like hand cycle instruction, and same with a lot of the things that I try to do, is from my own experience and what I learn, I try to teach other people things that are possible. If a guy wants to go and wrench, it's possible. Yes, you can climb underneath a truck and do all this sort of stuff. You can do all these things. And these are the changes that I've had to make, say, to my workbenches, to, it's like I have a Hoyer lift. I have a manual Hoyer lift that I use in my shop to pick up like transmissions and engine blocks and stuff like that. I've modified my workbenches to be at the proper height, my drill press, things like that. And then I've kind of used it as a tool to show people when I teach like a wheelchair skill, like a floor transfer. Okay, well, this is what you can do out in the public, but I also use a floor transfer when I need to get down on the ground to change a tire, or to crawl underneath a truck to do an oil change, or, things like that. So I use those kind of in tandem. But just always figuring stuff out and trying different things and learning, it's Edison, they talks about, he didn't fail. He just found 9,999 ways not to make a light bulb.
Or he just stole it from Nikolai Tesla, but that's a whole other story. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there, but that's just what I heard.
Me neither.
But no, that's
yeah, it's you guys talked about it earlier, is you find your passion, you find what you're good at, what you're interested at, and you go for it. Whether you can make it a business, whether it's just a hobby. I found that was one of the most overwhelming things that I found in my disability was when I first got hurt, I thought life was over. I thought, check me into a nursing home, I'm done. And I found that nothing could be further from the truth. I found that I could do all the things that I ever wanted to do, even to the point of I couldn't exactly play soccer anymore, but I coached. I was able to still be on the field, and I was still able to be in that environment. It wasn't the same capacity, but it was still there. I'm still able to wrench. I'm still able to ride bikes. I'm able to ride motorcycles. I'm able to off-road in Jeeps and do, live independently and all of those sort of things. All of those things were possible. And I like to show people that it's just possible, whether you want to do it or not. It's like, I've gone skydiving now 3 times. I've done 3 tandem jumps. And one of my friends, she was trying to show her boyfriend, who was in a chair, she was like badgering him, like, oh, you got to go skydiving. Dom's gone skydiving. Like, it'd be so much fun. And he's like, I could give 2 shits about going skydiving. But it shows that those things are there if you want to do them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
I'm telling you, I think that's a for me, that's a perfect place to end, because it's the truth, man. That's what this podcast is all about, is showing anybody who watches that anything's possible. Find inspiration inside yourself, find inspiration through other people, and just make it happen. You know what I mean? Like, there's ways. Where there's a will, there's a way. You know, when I first got into MMA judging, everybody was like, "What the fuck do you know about kicking people in the face, dude?" Nothing. But look, I know all about kicking people in the face. I just don't do it, right? So it's like you got to figure out a way. You got to break through your barriers, man. You got to bust through that shit. And I'm telling you, we all appreciate you being here, because you've inspired us. And if you can inspire us, you can inspire anybody, man. So I appreciate it. The great, the powerful, the inspirational Domonic Corradin. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
I really do.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Really kind.
Awesome.
You already gave your plugs on where to find you, right?
Yep.
You can
Extreme
do it again.
Abilities. There is, just so people know, there is another Extreme Abilities down in South Africa that centralizes on surfing. So if you do type in Extreme Abilities and you see a lot of surfing stuff, I'm not a surfer. I don't do that stuff. The guys totally cool. We just happen to have the same business name.
Right on. Well, check them out, everybody. Domonic Corradin. Eric, appreciate you. Don, appreciate you. Laronda, always appreciate you. And that's the Podriplegics episode.
I appreciate you guys. Peace.